accessibility, and the Adrienne Arsht Center for the Performing Arts. This video, number 1, will discuss the 504 self-evaluation. Here's a bit of background. 3 pieces of federal legislation have had a significant impact on cultural organizations. The Architectural Barriers Act of 1968, the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, and the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990. While these 3 acts were all passed at different times, they are all still in full force, as none rescinded any of the others. They were layered on top of each other, and it is the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 and compliance with it where our focus lies today. The Rehabilitation Act of 1973 for Section 504 states that cultural organizations, private or public, that receive direct or indirect federal funds or federal financial support must make programs, services, and activities accessible, including employment opportunities. The Rehabilitation Act prohibits discrimination on the basis of disability in programs conducted by federal agencies, in federal employment, in the employment practices of federal contractors, and in programs receiving federal financial assistance, including state and local governments and private entities. Understanding these regulations and maintaining compliance can be very challenging, as federal agencies each have their own Section 504 regulations. Organizations receiving federal funding should determine what the Section 504 requirements are for each agency from which it receives funding. The National Endowment for the Humanities and the National Endowment for the Arts amended their Section 504 regulations in 1991 to require that their grantees follow the Uniform Federal Accessibility Standards. If the grantee is also a place of public accommodation, it is also subject to Title III of the ADA, which requires compliance with the Title III regulations and ADA standards. There are a number of administrative requirements outlined in most Section 504 regulations and in Title II of the ADA. There are 5 key 504 requirements consistently found in all organizations' 504 regulations. 1. Appoint a staff member as the ADA coordinator to coordinate the organization's 504 obligations. Jeffrey Gardner, our theater manager, has been appointed to this position. 2. Provide public notice of events and activities that indicate the organization will comply with the Rehabilitation Act and the ADA. 3. Establish internal grievance procedures for individuals with disabilities. 4. Conduct a self-evaluation of all policies, practices, and programs to determine if they are equally available to people with and without disabilities. 5. Develop a transition plan to identify what structural or physical changes should be made to achieve program access and a time frame for implementation. The 504 self-evaluation for the Adrienne Arsht Center for Performing Arts has been going on for several months and is nearly completed. The 504 evaluation requires that a public entity shall provide an opportunity to interested persons, including individuals with disabilities or organizations representing individuals with disabilities, to participate in the self-evaluation process by submitting comments. Also, a public entity that employs 50 or more persons shall maintain on file and make available for public inspection, 1. A list of the interested persons consulted, 2. A description of areas examined and any problems identified, and 3. A description of any modifications made. The next steps toward the completion of the 504 self-evaluation will be for the 504 coordinator to sign the completed self-evaluation and make it available for public inspection along with a list of deficiencies and a transition plan.
Finally, please be sure to jot down our new ADA point of contact. The email address for all issues regarding accessibility is accessibility@arshcenter.org. Please feel free to share this email address with anyone who has any questions regarding accessibility at the Arsht Center.